Okay, and we are now at 6 o'clock, so let's kick this off. And we'll look up here and see if that can go back up. Yeah, I know it's sharing. Okay, not sure why it's doing that. Okay, so going solar, got solar, things you need to know. Welcome to Pioneer Community Energy seminar. This is provided as an information resource about solar. About 21% of our service area, so over 30,000 people have solar, and there's a lot going on with solar. And so Pioneer wanted to make sure that we provided everyone with at least some basics about it and how the program works. So this presentation is divided into 3 sections. You're going to have the initial overview of what Pioneer is, and I am hoping that this screen thing would get out of the way, but it's not going to. Okay. We go through and we talk about how solar works, kind of give you some basics there. Then we talk about financing solar, going in rate plans and things along those lines, then how it's going to look on the bill, and then the difference between Pioneer and PG&E in terms of our billing structures, because you may have one preference over another. And then we go into how to calculate savings and track things on the bill. So hopefully different sections will appeal to you. Feel free to use the Q&A session to go through and put in your questions. And what we'll do is at the end of each section, answer questions that are going to be covered in another section will hold till then. So let's get started. So we're going to start with solar generation basics. Basically, panels turn sunshine into electricity. It's actually DC currents, kind of like batteries. You need an inverter, and that converts that DC into alternating current, which is what the home needs. You have then any power that's extra. If the home doesn't use it, it's put back onto the grid. And if you don't have enough power, then you're pulling power from the grid. Times when you might not have enough power would be some of the times like, let's see, get this to go down. There we go. At night. Okay, solar doesn't generate at night. You might have battery storage, and that'll definitely help with those times, but you still might pull power from the grid at night. In the wintertime, when we have cloud cover, storms, or like we just had in our service area, any of you who were in the path of the smoke from the mosquito fire would have seen, possible reduction in your generation because the smoke prevented some of the light coming through. If you have trees on the property, and as the sun moves across the sky and the shadow crosses any of your solar panels, that'll reduce your different types of generation. Compromised panels. A compromised panel may mean a panel that has lost some efficiency, or it could be a panel that's been damaged. We did have a time period when we had some kids who were running through neighborhoods throwing rocks at solar panels, thinking it was funny. That affected generation, of course. Now, here's some ones that are kind of unusual. Folks are kind of surprised to find out. During a power outage, if you don't have battery backup, your solar system won't be generating power for you. The inverter will actually stop it. And when power lines are down, same thing, the system won't generate power for you. And this is right to the left, right of that you see, to prevent injury and death. Once power is being generated, it can get back onto the grid. And if you have a repair person working somewhere on the line, that person could be electrocuted. And so it's a safety measure. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, so we have solar system ownership options. There are 3 basic ways, and there are probably others out there, but you can own your system by paying cash or financing it. You can lease your solar system, which is basically renting it and paying a fixed cost each month, or you can use a power purchase agreement. And each of those is a different way to go about financing a system. While we are providing this information to you, it's really up to you as the consumer to look into what situation works best for you and all the caveats, nuances of that financing. We're going to give you some information and ideas and questions to ask, but in the end, it's like anything that you finance, take care and ask the right questions. So, owning your own system. So, what to ask? You can pay cash, you buy it straight out. Simple, easy, that's really clear. When you finance, there's some questions to ask about. Number 1, loan generation fees. Some financing situations involve loan generation fees. What are the terms? How long are you going to have a loan? Are there any balloon payments? Is there a prepayment penalty? If you get the opportunity to buy your solar system outright, you don't want to have a penalty come along and cost more. The other big question is what happens if you move or sell? Because if you have a 15-year finance option, but you're going to move in year 10, what happens to those last 5 years? What are they expecting? Maintenance requirements. Who has the maintenance on this? Are you in charge of the maintenance? Is the installer in charge of the maintenance? Is there any requirement under this financing for how that's done? And then who gets the renewable energy credits and when? This is a question, as an individual homeowner, you might not be too interested in the renewable energy credits, can't really monetize them, but knowing where they go is important because your community may want to monetize them, or you might want to know, if your solar provider is monetizing them as well. It's just something that's out there to kind of watch for. As we say, these are just a few of the questions you should ask. Always read the terms and conditions of your agreement carefully. Under California law, if you don't understand something about your financing, you have the right to ask a question and expect an answer. It's your right to know. So always feel free to ask questions. If you're not getting answers, something to be concerned about. So let's look at leasing solar and what to ask. So when you lease a solar system, you're kind of paying a fixed monthly rate. But what happens at the end of the lease? It's a big question to ask. Do you have to buy the system? Will the system be removed? If the system's removed, how is the roof restoration handled? Your solar system is going to be attached to the roof most often. There are ground mount systems, but in looking at a roof mounted system, what happens when they remove it? What if there's damage? How will that be handled? Again, what happens in a move or sale? A lot of these programs come in with requirements for credit and certain levels of income. What happens if the person buying your home doesn't meet the terms of the lease agreement? How will that be happened or handled? Who's responsible for maintenance? What is the rate of increase in rent? This is a big one because there is a progressive increase over time. So kind of see how much is it going to be? What's that charge going to be? At what point have you paid off the cost of the system? Good question on leases is who gets the tax credit? If there is a tax credit available for putting solar on your system, the question then is, well, who gets that tax credit in a lease situation? Who gets the renewable energy credits if you're interested in those? The other one on the lease is to see who gets the net surplus compensation. Are you, as the customer who's paying for the system and generating the power and paying the electric bill, do you get the net surplus compensation? Or is there something in your agreement that hands it over to the company? It's just a question to ask. And then, does the agreement have a guaranteed minimum production? This is an important question, and we'll show you later on the bills why it's an important question and something to actually watch for. But a guaranteed minimum production, that's how much at minimum your system will put out for you at different times of the year. Okay, so a power purchase agreement. What do you ask here? Well, power purchase agreement is paid on a predetermined monthly price for kilowatt hour for power generated. So basically what that means is each kilowatt hour your solar system generates, you would pay a kilowatt hour price. So first question, of course, is what's the per kilowatt hour price? And then the question is, what is the buyback period? How long does it take to pay for the system under this type of agreement? What is the escalator? How much is your charge going to go up and by and when? That is one of the things to look at is the escalator. How much does it add? When does it add? And is it a percent? Is it a flat rate? Kind of get a look at that. Also look and see if there's any special bump up or balloon aspect of that. In this case, again, who gets the tax credit? Is it part of what you get? Is it folded in to part of the financing? Does that reduce your costs? What happens when you generate more than you use? This is a very important thing to look at with power purchase agreements. Power purchase agreements, because they charge based on how much is produced, if you are producing more than you're using, those kilowatt hours that are extra are open for net surplus compensation from the utility. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit. But the utility only pays wholesale price. You're actually paying for the price of that power under the PPA. Take a look at that because you could be paying for power or more for that extra generation than you're actually going to recover with PPAs matching up. your actual usage to your generation is a really critical component. Again, what happens if you move and sell? Who's responsible for the maintenance? That's again, it's a power purchase agreement. Are they going to come out? Are they going to take care of it? And for how long? Some agreements have the inclusion that at a certain point, you take over the maintenance. So just kind of make sure under whatever agreement you have, you know what your requirements are. And then does the agreement have a guaranteed minimum production? That becomes important. If you're in a lease or a PPA, if it's guaranteed 100 kilowatt hours and you're not getting 100 kilowatt hours, make sure that you know what that minimum is, and we'll show you how to watch for that. Again, these are just some of the questions asked. There are others, and always take a look at the fine detail. So we're going to play a little game of true and false. I'm going to read through these and kind of note to yourself what you think. I don't need my electric utility anymore if I have solar. I have solar. Solar works for any home. I won't have to pay for electricity. I'm not going to get a utility bill anymore. I will have power during outages. If I have solar, generating more than I use is always better. My solar system is free. I pay nothing. My solar doesn't need maintenance. My solar will cover all of my electric needs. Solar works for everyone, and all solar system providers, systems and providers are equal. So if you said false to all these statements, we're going to say that's correct. A lot of these we've covered, but there are some specific things. When it comes to your electricity utility, having a bill, needing power, you will still need those things. All solar systems, unless you are a 100% off the grid, that's a very unusual situation in some very rural areas of certain counties, you are going to be connected to the grid. If you're connected to the grid, you are connected to PG&E's lines and poles. You will pay for the transmission and distribution. If you are pulling power from the grid, you'll pay for that. So you will have a utility bill. You'll need your utility, all of those things. When you have power outages, we mentioned the reasons why you wouldn't have power. If you have battery, that might be something that gives you power during that time, because the inverter needs to know there needs to be a positive on the other side. There either needs to be a receptacle for it at the battery, or there needs to be the lines and poles receiving it. So if you don't have either one of those, you won't have power during outages. Solar system is free. You always pay, whether it's the lease or the PPA or in some other fashion, there is always a cost with it. Solar systems do need maintenance. It's important to find out your owner's manual, what the maintenance requirements are, and to work with your solar installer provider to ensure that maintenance is handled on a regular basis, especially as the system gets older. When you get into the 10, 11, 12-year-old, you want to make sure that your system is operating at maximum efficiency, so maintenance becomes required. Solar works for everyone. Not necessarily. It does not work for folks who are in snow country when the solar system's buried under snow for a significant part of the year, or if you are in a home that's completely surrounded by trees and the shade prevents you from having any generation. It also doesn't work if your home has too steep of a slope, so you're not able to get this type of maximum slant that you need in the angle for the sun to hit it. So all of those things are reasons why solar might not work for someone. Can they all be mitigated? Absolutely, but just things to know. And all solar systems and providers are created equal. There are so many solar providers out there. We recommend that you talk to at least 3. If you can, find out each of their programs, what they offer, the maintenance, do your diligence to make sure you get the best deal and the best project you can. So we're going to hold there right now, and we're going to take a look at some questions. Tammy asks, are we going to be able to review the video? The video should be posted. So yes, as far as we know, we should be fine. Second, hi, where can I find the rate at which I'm reimbursed if I have a negative balance at my NEM true-up? You're talking your net surplus compensation rate, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and we can point out where those are at. You will find them both in the PG&E tariff, and you'll also find them online on Pioneer's net surplus compensation rate. So going from there, we have getting the most out of your solar system. And so we're going to move on from this one. We're going to hit those 2 lives are done. And first thing, solar and net energy metering. Solar panels, this is kind of a diagram. We created this just to kind of see how the whole thing works. So you have the sun on the left, it shines on the panels, it goes to the inverter. There's the inverter that converts it, goes into the house. From the house, it goes to the meter. If it's excess, it goes out. If you need energy, it comes in. A bidirectional meter, this is what this is called. A bidirectional meter actually measures excess energy produced and returned to the grid and energy brought in from the grid. Each of these components can affect the productivity and the efficiency of your system. A panel that's not efficient, an inverter that's broken or is not working at maximum capacity. The electric meter, sometimes smart meters go bad. It happens, their equipment. Sometimes they've been installed backwards. Actually had that happen. Those kinds of things, there are tips and tricks we're going to show you on your bill to kind of let you know if there's something you should take a look at. But this is kind of basically how everything works from there. So net energy metering, we call it solar, but net energy metering, or NEM, is actually the name for the program that the Public Utilities Commission created for solar. And there right now are two. You have net energy metering, NEM 1, for those of you who have solar systems. If you're on here just kind of getting a refresher, solar systems that were installed before 2016, you might be on NEM 1. That's going to change come December. Those who are newer, 2016, or you've bought a home that has solar, you've just now installed it, you're on what's called the NEM 2. NEM 2 requires the following. You have to be on a time of use rate structure. So that's TOUC, D, EV2, all of these different ones. You have to pay interconnection fees. There is a minimum base charge each month. So for those of you who have a bill and it has that $10 or $12 a month, that's the base charge. It's required by the Public Utilities Commission. You receive credit for excess generation at the retail rate for the time period it's generated. What does that mean? With Pioneer, it means that during the month, if you generate more than you use, we take those kilowatt hours and we multiply them by the retail rate for the time period they were generated. That becomes a dollar amount. And that credit, that dollar, is placed on your account as a credit to be used against future expenses in terms of usage. PG&E does the same thing, but they do it as a ledger. So theirs is just kind of a rolling information from month to month, and they reconcile at the end of the year. Pioneer does it each month, and you get that credit on the bill and it rolls forward. That's what we mean by excess generation. Now, you're also entitled to receive net surplus compensation at the end of the 12-month cycle. This is different from that monthly retail credit. This is actually over the year. If you have generated more than you used in total, we take those kilowatt hours and we multiply them by a net surplus compensation rate. It's kind of like a wholesale rate. And that is either, if it's for Pioneer, if it's under $25, we put it on the bill as a credit. If it's over $25, we actually send you a check. And this last year, we sent out $484,000 to net surplus compensation to customers who had generated more than they used over the years. Now, both PG&E and Pioneer, once we do that 12-month, whether it's the PG&E true up or Pioneer's cash out in the March-April period, we reset everything to zero. It's starting over. You've had your cash out has happened, you've been compensated. Now we reset the meters and we start going forward again with the accruals. So time of use rate, NEM 2 requires a time of use rate. What does that mean? With a time of use rate, electricity costs more at different times of the day. This is a structure created by the Public Utilities Commission. It was not designed by your investor and utility. It wasn't a PG&E idea, wasn't a Pioneer idea. This was an idea generated by the Public Utilities Commission to try and get people to move from the using power at 4 to 9 when costs are higher and there's a higher demand, and getting them to shift it to earlier in the day by making it more expensive. There are at least 4 time of use rates available. And I say at least because there are more coming available all the time. You can take a look at these at pge.com/NEM rate analysis, and you can see the different ones and see what's out there. The most common one is time of use C. It's the one that you hear in the advertisements. It's the one they talk about. It's the default rate throughout PG&E territory now and the Pioneer service area. So basically it has a peak period of 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., which means from 4 to 9, power costs more. To save money, you gotta avoid using power during those periods of time. There's a little clock on the side that says, as soon as it hits 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock, try and avoid using power. So what would you do to do that? You know, no pool pumps operating, dishwashers, washing machines. If you have special equipment, if you irrigate through a well, avoid the 4 to 9 period in terms of irrigation. Also, well owners, watch for leaks. Leaks during the day from your system, if it drains down the cistern and it triggers the well pump to fill during that 4 to 9 period, it could result in costs. You can also program your thermostat to avoid the 4 to 9 period, and there are some techniques for harnessing the power of that. Okay, so from there, now Pioneer works for solar. There is a lot of discussion out there about how Pioneer works with solar and whether or not it does, and we actually do. And whether you're on a PPA, financed, you own it, Pioneer does work with solar, and we support solar customers. The difference is, and this is the main one, we did mention a little earlier, we reconcile each month. So we've said, generate more than you use, you get that credited at the retail rate, it goes on the bill, and it moves forward month to month. For every month that you generate more than you use, that credit keeps going forward. If you use more than you generate, you pay for that. And then that's it. When it comes to our cash out period, there's no additional costs. It's just whatever you would normally pay, and then we cash you out if you are net surplus. There's no large end of the year bill. So what we have down here is an example of someone who would be paying with Pioneer, and there's someone who generates more than they use. So it shows there's a balance. That's a credit. You have $290 on your bill. That's money that can be used towards future usage. So if this is say a bill that they've been generating power in the summer, and this is August credits, and then looking towards September, October, maybe they're going to use more power as we get to cooler times this month and have less generation, this credit would cover that. So now the other thing that you're going to see right there is I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to just kind of circle it with my cursor a little bit. This is a negative number. Your cumulative kilowatt hours year to date. If you are a Pioneer customer or you become a Pioneer customer, watch this number. It's in the summary, and I'll show you in a bill later exactly where it is. If this number is negative, that means you're in the credit mode. It means you've generated more than you've used. If this is a positive number, so there'll be no minus sign there, then that means that that's what you've used over the year. If it is a positive number, it's just information. It will not impact your bill. It will not be something you pay for. It's already done. It's just an informational component. If you are negative in this way, you've got the extra generation, this is something to watch because you can see where your credit is going and kind of keep an eye on how much you're going to save or to be compensated. And then we just have some of our disclaimer information on it. So there you go. Applies against future credits, extra power paid at the net surplus compensation rate. So best of both solar and Pioneer. So cash out is in March, April. There's a reason Pioneer set this up. The majority, now I'm not going to say everybody because we always have, there are always exceptions to everything, but the majority of people start really generating good credits March, April time period. So we set our true up, our net surplus compensation time period for that March, April period. So we get everybody set. It's giving you the most opportunity to generate power from March, April, May, June, all the way through the summer, through all the warm months into September, October, to build up as much of a kitty of credits as you can get to kind of move through the winter time. And so that's why we did it that way. And that's why we don't go month by month. We actually have everyone on the same month. Now, with that said, when we go through and we do our cash out, Pioneer indexes to PG&E and we add a half cent more. So that means whatever PG&E is paying you for net surplus compensation, we match it and add a little bit more. If you have net surplus compensation greater than $25, we're going to send you a check You're going to get that. That check can be used anywhere you want. You want to pay down a bill or put it towards your gas bill, whatever, you can do whatever you want. With the 25, less than $25, it goes as a credit on the bill and will be roll forward to the next year and just rolls month to month to month till you use it. The balance resets to zero, just like PG&E's annual process, and you start accruing again. And there is our 2022 cash payout of $484,000. So all that said, it's still a choice. It's your power, your choice. Solar customers, all ratepayers can choose. Pioneer works with solar. You can choose to stay with solar and combine your new solar with Pioneer's lower rates, or you can be with PG&E. It's really what works best for you. If you like the annual billing, great, not a problem. If you want to try Pioneer for a while and then decide later, awesome. It's really your choice. So we want to make sure that's emphasized, because some folks are being told you have to opt out of Pioneer to have solar, and you don't. It's your choice. If you want to, great. If you don't, fantastic. It's all good. So with that, that's the end of that section. And we're going to move over to questions. And where can okay, so your net surplus compensation rate on Pioneer's solar page, and you can get to it. You go to residence solar, you will find the net surplus compensation link, and it's actually a chart and it changes each month. So if you want to keep track of it or anything, you can pull that up, and we have a running catalog of kind of like all the list of all the net surpluses that we've had. The current rate is listed there, so whatever the month is, that's the one you've got. Technically, I defer my dishwasher to after 9 p.m. Okay, so I have someone who's attending, and this is their question. So technically, if I defer my dishwasher to after 9 p.m., then I am selling electricity to the grid at a higher rate when generating and buy it back from the grid at a lower rate when I run the appliance after 9 p.m. Is that correct? Okay, so I believe so, yes, but let's make sure we've got this clear. If you generate power between 9, usually solar systems start generating about 9 a.m., sometimes a little earlier in the summer. So between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., that is usually the off-peak period. If you generate power from, say, 4 to 5, 5 to 6 during the summertime, can happen. If you generate power there, yes, that's at a higher rate. And yes, if you defer using your dishwasher till after 9 p.m., then that power that you generated in the 4 to 6 or that time period could cover it. There are generations that happen in the peak period, and there's a lot of generation that happens in the off-peak period. And that's a real big thing to keep in mind. If you're generating a lot of power in the off-peak period, it's not the same price as in the peak period from 4 to 9. So you can't get, if I use 100 kilowatt hours in the peak period of 4 to 9, but I generated 100 kilowatt hours during the day, I'm going to get the same compensation. It's because that rate's lower during the day, you won't. So just kind of be aware of it. If you're generating enough electricity during the day that you can create the amount in retail credit that is equal to what you would use in the off-peak 4 to 9 period, then yes, you'd get that coverage. So hopefully I haven't made that worse and that makes sense. So where can I find the rates for TOU plans? The site does not provide these rates, only the peak and off-peak times. Okay, so if you would like, try PG&E time of use and use that as your Google search, and that will take you to time of use rates. There may be links on the PG&E rate analysis page, but go to the time of use page and it'll have all kinds of information on it for you. So, okay. Next one, are you going to talk about what happens when NEM 3? I don't have any information about what NEM 3 is going to look like. So for anyone who's going NEM 3, what is that? The Public Utilities Commission right now has a proceeding called net energy metering going through, and they're going to call it net energy billing. It's going to be the new NEM program. We don't know what that's going to look like. There's been a lot of testimony, there's been a lot of evidence, there's been a lot of discussion. It has not been decided. We don't know what it's going to look like. So I have nothing to share with you about that, except that it's pending. and that once it's in place, anyone who has solar after that point will be going on to the NEM 3. Those who are NEM 1 will eventually transition to it, as will NEM 2, depending on the schedule. And all of that is still being worked out. When and how, we don't know until a decision comes out from the Public Utilities Commission. So don't know what's going to change yet either. There was so much discussion about the next net energy metering and so much between so many parties. We have no way to even begin to predict what we've got going on. So I've got anonymous, I've got it. My true up is currently in July. How can I change it to March? Well, if your true up's in July, things that will materially change your true up, which will force a true up, changing your rate plan, opting out of Pioneer Community Energy, opting back into Pioneer Community Energy. Any of those types of things change it. Having your smart meter changed out, having I believe material change to the solar system. Those are triggering events. So if you're looking at wanting to change and opt out, change your current PG&E true up period, make a change in the month preceding when you wanted to start. So if you wanted to reset your true up to March, you would change something like opting into Pioneer, opting out of Pioneer, or changing your rate plan or doing something like that in the February timeframe to get it to March. I hope that makes sense. So if you're not, you can ask questions to us later. We'll have our contact information. Could this possibly be more confusing, Kathy? I agree with you. I wish it wasn't. This is why we kind of started this. The net energy metering is messy and the bills are messy and there's a lot of moving parts. That's why Pioneer started this seminar and why we also offer our assistance for folks who want a little extra help reading their bill or understanding how things go. So how will compensation change over time? We don't know. I don't have an answer for you, Frank. It's going to depend on what the Public Utilities Commission decides. Darren, how would I go about figuring out if I save more or with PG&E or versus Pioneer? I'm going to cover that in the next one. We're going to show the billing a little bit. So when I show that to you, I can take care of it. So, and I'll talk to you about spreadsheets and stuff that we have. So next one, I'm on NEM 1 and rate E Plan 6. How long is this viable? Okay, for those of you who are an original NEM customer and you're on an E6, take a look at your bills. You should probably see a message from PG&E that they're going to be switching folks off of that come December 2022, but it should be on your bill somewhere. You should have a message from PG&E telling you exactly what the date is for yours to end there. Oh, Frank's worried about payout rates lowering over time. Can you lock anything in with Pioneer? It's the cost at the compensation rate is actually based on the market and where things are at. So it will always be a variable. I don't know that we have any plans for that. If that's something you're interested in, I'd recommend you bring it up to the Pioneer board. Hey, Pioneer Community Energy is a local entity. We have a governing board that is publicly available, and you can bring things like this up to them at their board of directors meetings, which are third Thursday of the month, and it's on our website, so you can always do that. So, okay, about the TOU plans, I'll take up that. Remind me later, and I'll talk to you about that. And we can even show you where the tariffs are. So, okay. If you're looking for TO time of use information, they're all under electric tariffs and it's really long and messy. So how do I switch from PG&E Solar to Pioneer Solar? If you are in the Pioneer territory and you weren't automatically enrolled or you opted out, you can just contact us to opt us back in. Okay. All right. So we've got those questions done. Whew. If more questions come up, go ahead and put them in there. We're happy to keep going on this. Now, deciphering your solar bill. Here are some secrets. We have learned over time some really great secrets about solar. So I'm going to put it. Okay. This is an actual PG&E bill for solar. And so we're going to kind of go over this. And we picked a true up bill so that we can kind of show some of the components of it. This is a PG&E true up bill. And you'll see the customer, they have a true up with PG&E. Here's their $355 for the year. But notice Pioneer's charges are only $18. Because we charge monthly and we reconcile on the monthly basis, this customer only had what they would have normally paid. So there's no large bill from Pioneer. But here's some things to look at. This statement here, this box that says summary of your true up, during the year, this will have a running total. It'll say what's your year to date, what's your charges looking like. And in this body here, right about here, it'll show you a month and the year. And that's your true up date. So if you're ever wondering, oh, was my true up in August or September, or was I June or July, you will see it right here. This number here, solar customers, remember that we said that you pay that base $10, $11, $12 a month. It is accrued together. You pay it to PG&E and they keep track of it. And then it's credited back against whatever your NEM charges are. And then that credit is deducted and then your total is what's left there. So this bill has $425. It's made up of the true up, the Pioneer charges and gas. Here's the base charge. Here's this total NEM charges only appears at true up, and these are your transmission and delivery charges. You won't see that until then, so you have to watch, and we're going to show you where to find that. And there's the what's due at true up. Here's Pioneer, and we're moving to the next one. Okay, so this is a summary of your NEM charges. Now, what I want you to look at, this is page 3 on almost every bill. Sometimes it's another page. If there's some stuff that rolls over, it might be page 4. Battery folks, I'm going to declare to you right now, batteries have a different bill. If you have batteries, you're going to have what's called a big white bill, and the part that we have in here that is would normally be this information will be blank. If you have that, get a hold of us. We'll walk you through it because it's a little different. So on your summary page, this is page 3. It starts off with what is your net peak usage, off peak usage, all of this. This is peak hours, off peak hours, and what's billed. If this number is negative, like right here, means you generated more than you used. If the number's positive, it means you used more than you generated. You see the true up. This is really important. For those of you who've had large end of year bills, true up bills, this is how you track where you're at. There's the 478. If this was a higher bill, or if this customer wanted to make sure that they could keep that bill under control, you can pay a little extra each month and it'll sit on your account with PG&E as a credit and will be used to pay this at the end of the year. Okay, so this is how you watch. This is also, if you have Pioneer, this is just lines and poles. This is 100% the PG&E component of the bill. If you're not with Pioneer, then this will have both your generation and your lines and poles, and that total would be everything due at the end of the year. So it's where you track this stuff. Okay, so how is your true up calculated? So your true up statement, you can see all electric usage charges credits are reset to 0 starting at your next billing cycle. But what you see, true up month is usually listed here. This is a true up bill, so we don't have that. Here's the monthly charges. On that same page 3, you'll see the running charges. This is going to be credited against whatever you owe. And there's what's due at true up. You will see this all on page 3. Okay, so just know this is where you can track what's going on, whether you're a Pioneer or PG&E. The PG&E portion is always going to be here. If you have both PG&E for lines of poles and electricity, this is what you'll see in total. Pioneer, this is just going to be the PG&E transmission distribution. Okay, so now let's take a look at the details of electric monthly charges. This is how PG&E calculates that charge for the $11 or $12. It's the number of days times a rate, and then that becomes what you pay, okay? That is determined by the Public Utilities Commission. It's a requirement. Everyone pays it. Some information to find on your bill. If you're not sure what rate plan you have, rate schedule, there it is. Time of use, 4 to 9, also known as time of use C. Programs, net energy metering. This customer has NEM without a 2. It's NEM 1. If you are an NEM 2, it'll have a 2 after it. If you have medical baseline, that will appear there. If you have care, FARA, that will be there. If you have paired storage, batteries, that will be there. This is how you know what you're enrolled in. If you are a medical baseline or care FARA customer, which those are California alternative rates for energy and the Family Energy Rate Assistance Program, if you have those and you've been used to them, watch. They'll have a deadline of when to reapply. If it's not on the bill, it means it's fallen away. So kind of keep an eye on that. Again, this is just to show you this charge is set by the CPUC. It's not something PG&E set. It's not something Pioneer set. Public Utilities Commission did. And PG&E trues up its credits, and those credits go against the balance. Okay, so now we're going to go into a NEM charge. This is the NEM bill component itself. This is where you see your generation and your usage. Some very, very important information to keep an eye on this one. How are we doing on time? I want to make sure. Okay. Consumption. That is the amount of electricity totally that your household consumed that month. Net generation. Okay, this is the generation that your system created. This is a very important number to watch. Remember I told you it's a secret magic number? That's it. If you have that number, compare it to guaranteed minimum system generation. If you are seeing your bills creep up and you're not seeing the benefit from your solar, take a look and see, was it in April? Was it the same? Was it higher? Was it lower? That number over the period of a couple of months can tell you if there's something wrong with your system. If it's really high in March and April, and then suddenly plummets in June, there's something wrong with the system. So watch that number and keep an eye on it. Net usage. This is what you will be billed for. They take your consumption, subtract your generation, and there's that. If it's positive, that means you will pay for your electricity. If it's negative, it means you're going to get a credit. That's going to build towards that net surplus compensation and towards that retail rate credit on your bill. So this one, power charge and difference adjustment, also known as the PCIA. Okay, this is a charge everybody pays. But customers who've only been with PG&E have never seen it because it's not called out. It's actually in PG&E's tariff, and the rate is whatever the current year is. There's a chart in there that has that. Based on when you join Pioneer, the vintage rate, 2017, you will have this. There's 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. So your vintage rate determines how much your PCIA is. The longer you're with Pioneer, the deeper the discounts go. The younger your time with Pioneer, the more likely the cost is going to be a little higher. You can find this in the PG&E tariffs. Okay, franchise fee. This is a charge levied by the cities and counties on PG&E to use the right-of-ways. And it's a tax, kind of well, it's called a fee, not a tax, the fee, but it basically is what pays for the right-of-ways, and the money goes straight to the cities and counties. Okay, look at this one. We've got a generation credit here. With Pioneer, PG&E billing does not allow them to line item things. They can't just go through and pull out pieces and parts. The billing system is quite complicated. So what they have to do is they have to put all the charges on the bill. And then they begin subtracting what you should not have paid. So in this case, right under here from 6/1 to 6/27, this person had a credit from PG&E of $40.02. That means that that was what PG&E would have charged them for power. Now, that number goes positive with overgeneration. And someone goes, well, does that mean I'm being charged for power? No, that's not what that means. It means up here in this negative number that PG&E would be crediting you for generation, but since you don't have PG&E for generation, if you're with Pioneer, they have to zero that out. And so that's what that does. It's confusing, it's messy, but that's how it works. So in this case, what we do is we take the 40 here and the 2 here, and that becomes 38. Okay. Now, if you're with Pioneer, you're going to have another page. It'll be a page 7 most often. Sometimes if the pages slip a little bit, you might be page 8. But this is what the Pioneer pages comes in. That 191 from the page before, that was the net usage. There it is right there. That's what Pioneer will base its charges on. We get that number from PG&E. We don't go anywhere else. We don't have our own system to get it. We have the same numbers that PG&E provides us. So you'll see your rate plan with us. This is important, making sure both of them match, but this is where the PG&E one says 4 to 9. We use the actual tariff name, which is ETOUC. You see your running credit here. Remember we had that other one where we had the credit, they were 290. In this case, we've got someone who's been running, they use more than they generate. So they're running positive. They don't have a credit right now, and they have a positive number. They've already paid for this power. It's there as information. So because Pioneer reconciles monthly, this is what they would charge. Now, we're going to go through. If you looked, PG&E had a credit of $40.02, and then there was that $2.03. What that combines to, you compare that to Pioneer, 38 versus 18. That's the difference in our electricity costs. We're very parallel with SMUD and Roseville. But even though that is part of it, there are charges that need to come, and we'll go through those in a second. There are the power charge and difference adjustment and the franchise fee, and I'll show you in a minute. So when you saw on that bill, when you look at, when you have Pioneer and you have us there, we took a little deeper dive on this. This is a bill where this person has a credit, $56 or $51.66, pardon me. This number will be added to the running credit. And that tells this person, oh, I've got $150 credit. Notice their number is negative. If negative number, it's net surplus. Okay. Oops. So let's go back up. All right. So that's net surplus. If you have that, in this case, this person has a negative, they're going to pay nothing to Pioneer. If they owed $51, we would take from this credit, and that they'd still owe Pioneer nothing because they use their credits to pay for things. Okay, so that's that. Now, I was mentioning there was the PG&E $40, there was the 203. We combine those together, that's the generation credit. It was actually $37.99. We take away the PCIA. There were 2 because that split component of it. We also subtract the franchise fees because that is a fee that is in addition to generation. Then you subtract Pioneer's generation charges. For this customer, they would have paid over $40 for their power. But with Pioneer, they actually saved $15.90. This is a solar customer. Yes, you can have savings. Now, I get the question, is this work for everybody? Majority, especially if you're a net consumer, meaning that you always use more than you generate. There are about 20% of solar customers for whom the annual billing is a benefit. And where it becomes a benefit is that the way their generation works, because PG&E has a ledger, you remember seeing the negatives and the positives, and they're all on there, and then they reconcile at the end. Credits created and generated in September can pay for power charges that were accrued in February. So basically, future credits apply to back debt. That's where that annual comes in as a benefit. Does it work that way for everybody? No, like I said, there are about 20% of people where that may be a case where Pioneer still saves them money, but the amount we save them is not as much as they save by being able to take advantage of having those credits from future applied to back debt. 75% of folks experience this, or if they're net surplus generators, they experience a great net surplus check, but 20% are the other way. So there we go. Now, that's what we've got to the end of it. This is where you can get a hold of us. You can send an email to customer service at pioneercommunityenergy.org. You can visit our website. We have a Facebook page. That's our 800 number. And going back, okay, so let's see. We had the one question. I believe the person wanted to ask, how would I do a comparison of Pioneer and PG&E? I have spreadsheets that I use, and I can share these with you, not a problem. A lot of times if someone's looking at it going, I really would like to run an analysis, because Pioneer competes with PG&E only on the generation, that's the only part that we look at. And so we run it side by side in, if it was March bill, here's the usage, Pioneer, rates compared, PCIA included, what was the net? Was there a savings? Was there not? And we put it for 12 months and we show what the cost would be. Well, would you pay more? Would you pay Pioneer 1 month? PG&E's runs for a whole year, no payments, and then it accrues at the bottom. Ours, we show, okay, was there a savings? Was there a credit, a debit? And it goes down the line, and then we total it all up and let you see net surplus compensation. We let you see, what does it look like, in terms of the annual versus monthly, and let you know if someone's going to benefit from an annual billing. We say go for it, opt out of Pioneer. No, totally makes sense. If you're going to save more with us, great, we'd love to have you stay. But again, it's your choice. You don't have to. So those kinds of things that we do. Okay, so we're going to move over to questions. Is it possible for customers who will generate more than they consume annually, being on the annual true-up would be more beneficial than the monthly plan? Most of the time, net consumers do better with Pioneer. But again, if you're in a really low amount, say your net consumption is 100 kilowatt hours annually, that might be one of those folks who falls into that 20%. So it's worth it to take a look and see exactly where it is. It also depends on when your system really kicks it up and when your true up is. Sometimes the true up plays games with the annual situation and how those credits roll. So I love this. I'm sorry. It's a depends. Can't give you a hard fast. Most folks do well, but you can always check it. Is net generation on the bill total generation, or is the amount I sent to the grid? Actually, I believe whatever you're seeing as the net generation is what PG&E's meter is reading, which is why it's really important. I had someone I spoke with today who said, hey, my system is telling me that I'm generating X amount of X amount of kilowatt hours, but PG&E is only showing me, I generated 800, they're only showing 700. What happened? Good question. When you have a battery, there is a second meter called an engine meter, and that reads just your generation and sets the cap for how much your net surplus compensation is or how much credit you get on your system, because it says this is what you actually generated, and sometimes there's extra that goes through. It might be seepage from the battery or something. So it's important to watch those numbers. It's supposed to be what your system generated. Okay. Another question, can you explain why our baseline allowance is a negative number? That is immensely confusing to us all. Okay, if you look at that baseline number on TOUC, and let me see if I can find it. Okay, wrong one. Oh, we're gonna go page up. Let's see if we can find a bill where we're talking about that, the baseline allowance. Okay, so we're gonna current slide. Okay, here you go. So she's talking about this baseline, and that's how can it be a negative number? The reason it's negative, if you have a positive amount, meaning you used more than you generated, then you're going to be multiplied by a negative number and it's going to be a credit. If you have a credit, it multiplies out as a negative. And the reason it does that is it's offsetting the credit. Remember I told you that PG&E in their calculations doesn't pay for extra kind of thing. That's why that happens. This is a number given to you that allows you, this one, yep, okay, this one here. This one up here is a negative. This one shows a positive. Baseline credit here, we have 200 kilowatt hours that were credited. And so it's credited at a negative and gives you credit on here. This is a relationship to what your allowance is and how much you actually used and how that impacted that. So that's where that credit comes from. And it's negative because of this number right here, and how it's actually calculated. Not the best explanation, but that's as good as I can get. If you can read the tariff, I try to read the tariffs. It might have a better, deeper explanation. So let's see. Oh, and yay, someone found their rates. Fantastic, love that. My mother's 79 years old. She's considering solar. Can we have a one-on-one with Pioneer to see if this is a good idea? We're happy to talk to you. In the end, it'll be your decision, but we're happy to talk to you about what it means, what happens, and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, give us a call. You've got our numbers. Okay, let's see, Frank. Even one of the questions you would address is if it was always a good idea to generate more electricity. And this means to oversize your PV array beyond your anticipated needs. Okay, you get a system. PG&E can only go about 110% beyond the site, beyond your actual usage. Is it always good to generate more than you use? If you're on a power purchase agreement, no. And that's because you pay for every kilowatt hour you generate. And when you pay for every kilowatt hour that you generate, if you generate more than you use, let's see, we'll get down here. If you generate more than you use, then you are actually paying for that power. And Pioneer's compensation to you for that might be 5.5 cents, but you're paying the solar company 18 cents for that. So you're actually paying 13 cents on, for extra generation rather than receiving just a credit for it. Now, in other situations, the best thing, if you can get your solar production to match your usage and you can take 100% benefit of all those retail generated credits, yay. Other times the net surplus compensation, the size of the system, how much did it cost and how much is that net surplus giving you and are you actually making back your money? That's some formulas that go beyond what kind of math I can do, but your solar provider can kind of help you with that. So yeah, it depends. So what is Pioneer's opinion of discharging your batteries from 4 to 9 p.m.? Okay, this gets into, the question is specifically about if I have battery storage and from 4 to 9, I use my battery to support my time of use. That's very efficient. You've taken solar that you've generated during the day, the extra solar, you've housed it in your batteries, and you are now using it at the time period when power's most expensive. Your solar provider can program it to help you with that. And that's really an efficient way to go. As far as we know, that works out great. You can always talk to your solar provider, ask them if there's any other time that it would be good. Any time that would be better to pull in that power, maybe you're charging an electric vehicle at a certain time of day or something. Check with them about your usage and what your plans are. But from what we've seen and we understand, that's a very efficient use of a battery. How do PPAs get away with installing far more than actual usage? They can actually only install about 110%. So if you have, let's say your house is 100 kilowatt hours a month, and you tell your solar installer that you plan to put in an electric vehicle at some point, well, then they can build to that extra anticipation and give you that, but only to a certain percent. So that's how that works. And that's with all solar. They can only go so far. PG&E will only allow so much, and it's based on your actual usage plus projections if you're getting an electric vehicle kind of thing. So let's see. Do we have other questions? Anything that anyone else needs at this time? Kathy, I see your hand raised. Did you need us to allow you to talk? Oh, yes. Okay, so Kathy, I've taken you off mute. If you want to take your speaker off mute, you can ask a question. Do you have a question?
Okay, well, sure, I wasn't expecting to talk, but So we think that we're going to be net generators. In fact, we
Okay.
insist on it. So, and not net consumers.
Okay.
I just learned today that we are on the Pioneer NEM with the monthly and not the annual.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking that we're going to more benefit from annual true up.
Hmm.
I mean, we would prefer to stay with Pioneer, but I don't think that it's going to take the most advantage of our system.
Well,
So
so
by the
that's
way, thank you for this webinar. It's really awesome. And it's actually very human and very refreshing.
no problem. So what you can do if you are in that kind of case and you're not sure, you can always opt out of Pioneer, take the year to see how it looks on the annual, and then come back and say, okay, Pioneer, I've had 1 year with PG&E. What would it look like if I had been with you? And then we can go through and do the calculations and show you, or you can do the reverse. You can try Pioneer for the year and see if it works, and then go, no, I'm going to go with the annual. It's really a choice for you what you'd like to do, but either would work and allow you to really make your decision based on the actual dollars.
Okay, actually, and I'm kind of glad I only found that out because of this webinar and
Hmm.
hadn't yet asked ourselves that question. And we really want to be not PG&E customers, but Pioneer customers. I mean, because we like the idea of community energy and a not-for-profit, but
Yeah. And it
so
really
we'll,
comes down to what works for you. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
okay,
think about it and decide what you want to do. And either way, we want everyone to make the choice that's right for them. We want folks to take advantage of the annual billing if that works best. We want them to take advantage of Pioneer's monthly or our net surplus compensation if that saves the most. So yeah.
yeah. So if we stay with you for a year, we could ask you guys, like, what would the
Yeah.
calculation been if we hadn't?
Yes, absolutely. And we'll
Okay,
show
I
it to you.
think,
It'll be that running side by side. It'll show usage and it'll show credits and debits and all of
okay.
that. And yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll do that. And today I actually put a phone call into y'all and a human being answered within 2 or 3 minutes. And actually that was pretty nice. Yeah,
I'm glad you had a good experience.
I
Yay.
did. Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Really appreciate your webinar. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Okay. So we go from there and then we got a couple more questions. Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys found it human. We try and do that because this is a very messy topic. It's very complicated. Um, I've got another question. At system design, what if you say you're going to install 2 electric chargers to achieve a larger PV array, but you don't install the vehicle chargers for a few years? Does that violate anything with PG&E or Pioneer? Does not affect Pioneer in the least. I have no idea about how it would affect PG&E. That's something that you really need to work out with your solar installer and PG&E because it's the grid, it's the interconnection, it's the sizing, all of them, it's the transformers. Do be aware that when you go through and you install solar, the transformers and the line that you're on, the capacity may need to be adjusted. So keep that in mind because your solar provider might come back and say, okay, if we do this, what you're suggesting, putting 2 cars on there, but we're going to exceed the capacity of the line that you're on. So we're going to have to upgrade certain things. You'll need to keep that in mind for costs. So those are all things that solar provider and PG&E can answer. That's as about as much as I can tell you about that. Okay, so we have the next question was, um, is there a list of reputable solar providers? Okay, Pioneer Community Energy as a local agency and a government agency, we don't recommend any one over another, but we will say that Placer County Contractors Association, El Dorado County Contractors Association, and the Nevada County Contractors Association, they have solar providers on hand that are members of their organization, and they are vetted, and you can take a look at them and work with them. There are also a number of local providers. That's why we recommend you can Google up solar providers, you can see who installs, you can see who's local, and then contact them and get the different ones to talk to you to see who's got the best information, who's listening to what you want for your project, what they're talking about in cost, what they're talking about in product. This means the type of panels they're using. Are they talking single inverters, micro inverters? What are they talking? See what they each bring up for you. And so those are kind of how you can find that. I wish I had more information for you, but your contractors associations and the local folks are due. You can also, I don't know if the Chamber of Commerce have them. Not sure, most solar customers aren't in there. I am considering solar and currently live alone, but plan to add members to my household. Will PG&E allow me to build my system out to 110% above my current usage? I don't know. That's a good question. Again, I think your solar provider is the person to talk to, and PG&E. So when you start talking with solar providers, let them know your plans. Those are great plans to let them know. Adding people to your household, adding equipment, adding a shop, whatever it is you plan, talk to them about it and explain what you're doing and see how that can be worked out. I wouldn't be able to tell you for sure what would happen. Are all Pioneer Solar customers going to a March true-up? It's actually not a true up with us. Remember, we reconcile everything monthly. So it's either credits or pays each month. What we do in March is we put everybody into that for the cash out. And yes, if you're with Pioneer, your cash out period becomes March, April. And we do that because we found that that's the most beneficial time, as we mentioned before. Now, if you opt out of Pioneer and decide to join later, and you want to have everything with PG&E and Pioneer aligned, join us in February. So everything is set up for the March, April period. That's how one of those tricks you can do to reset your true up and make it the way you want it. So hopefully that answered your question on the March. Are there any other questions? Gonna check our time here. See how did we do? Did we stay on time or did I go over? Oops, I gotta. Oh, we are 6 minutes over. In the meantime, folks, here is our information. If you email customer service and you want to talk directly to me, just ask them, could you please forward this to Alexia or Alex and let them know. I'd like to talk to Alex. She did a solar seminar. Please send this to her. You can tell the folks at the 800 number and ask them to forward as well. So if there's anything else that you'd like, give us a holler. A lot of information on that. And we will be posting this one as well as having more seminars in the future. So if there are questions that come up and you want to attend another seminar and ask them there, we're happy to do that, or call us and we'll ask them to take care of them individually. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a lovely Thursday evening. Have a great weekend. And we will talk to you again sometime. Take care.